Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're taking you to the deserts of the Middle East and North Africa
Yeah, some pretty incredible landscapes.
to learn about the Nubian Ibex, a species of wild goat that has adapted to thrive in some of the harshest conditions on the planet.
Absolutely. And it's a fascinating story of resilience.
Yeah, it really is. So to kick things off, can you just give our listeners like a quick visual, like what exactly are we dealing with here?
So imagine a goat,
Oh,
but like a really impressive goat.
okay, I'm intrigued.
The males especially have these massive curved horns that just sweep back from their heads.
Oh wow.
They can grow over a meter long.
Wow, that's longer than like a baseball bat,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And it's not just for show. These horns are their weapons in these epic battles for dominance during mating season.
We'll have to get into that for sure. But what about the rest of them? I mean, besides the horns.
Well, their coat is the sandy brown color that blends in perfectly with the rocky terrain.
Camouflage.
Yeah, like a natural invisibility cloak.
Yeah.
Helps them avoid predators.
Makes sense, especially in a place like the Negev Desert here in Israel, or even around that incredible Ramon Crater. You know, those environments are pretty unforgiving.
Yeah, absolutely. They have to deal with scorching temperatures, limited water sources. It's definitely not a walk in the park.
No kidding.
Hmm.
So how do they find enough to eat and drink at a place like that?
Well, they're incredibly adaptable. For one, they're expert climbers.
Yeah.
Their hooves are designed to grip onto the smallest crevices so they can scale these steep cliffs and rocky outcrops to find food.
Like mountain goats.
Exactly. They make even the most experienced rock climbers look clumsy.
Wow, and that helps them find food.
Yeah, they're herbivores, so they graze on whatever vegetation they can find. And here's the really amazing part.
What's that?
They get most of their water from the plants they eat.
Really?
Yeah, they've evolved to survive on very little water, which is essential in a desert environment.
That's incredible. So they're spending their days scaling cliffs, finding whatever they can to eat. And do they do all of this alone or in groups?
That's another interesting aspect of their social behavior. The females and their young live in herds led by an experienced female.
Kind of like a matriarch.
Exactly. This provides protection for the young and vulnerable, but the males,
Males with the huge horns.
yeah, those guys, they often form bachelor groups or roam solo until it's time to mate.
And that's when things get interesting, right?
You could say that mating season for Nubian Ibex is basically a competition to see who has the biggest and strongest horns.
I bet those battles are pretty intense.
Oh, they're incredible to witness.
Yep.
The males charge at each other with these loud clashes of horns echoing through the canyons. It's all about establishing dominance.
Well, the winner gets to mate.
Exactly. The victor earns the right to breed with the females.
Survival of the fittest in action.
You got it. And after all that fighting, new life eventually arrives.
The Ibex kids.
Yeah, the kids are born remarkably agile, able to walk and climb within hours of birth. But of course, they're still vulnerable to predators.
What kind of predators are we talking about here?
Well, there are wolves, hyenas, and even large birds of prey that pose a threat to young ibex.
I guess the same terrain that protects them from some predators makes them more vulnerable to others.
Yeah, it's a constant balancing act. But sadly, those aren't the only threats they face.
Right. The Nubian Ibex is currently listed as vulnerable.
Exactly. And that's largely due to human activity. Habitat loss from things like development and agriculture is shrinking their territory.
That's a big problem for a lot of wildlife these days.
It really is. And then there's competition with livestock for food and water resources. And illegal hunting is still a problem in some areas.
So it's a pretty precarious situation for the Nubian Ibex.
It is. But there's hope.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, here in Israel, there are some really dedicated conservation efforts underway.
Like what?
Well, they've established protected areas and reserves to give the ibex safe havens. And they're working to reduce human-wildlife conflict.
That's encouraging to hear.
Yeah.
It sounds like people are recognizing the importance of protecting these incredible animals.
Yeah, and it's not just about their ecological importance.
Right.
The Nubian ibex also holds a special place in the culture of this region.
Oh, how so?
Well, it's become a symbol of resilience and adaptability. You know, its image appears in ancient rock art, and it's often mentioned in literature and poetry. It represents the spirit of the desert.
It's a powerful symbol for sure.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening who is now fascinated by the Nubian Ibex, as I know I am, what would you say is the one thing they should take away from this deep dive?
I'd say it's a reminder that even in the harshest environments, life finds a way to not just survive, but thrive.
Yeah, and that these incredible creatures are worth protecting.
Absolutely.
So keep exploring, stay curious, and who knows, Maybe your next adventure will lead you to an encounter with the majestic Nubian Ibex.
It's an experience you won't soon forget.
That's for sure. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you then.